Welcome everybody, I'm Frank Salon, and today for our Future Beauty Talk we have Tamara Reid from Beauté Industry. Now if you haven't met Tamara before, well, that's incredible because she certainly has made her footprint very clear and she's loved, very much loved in our industry. She's been involved in the industry right from the very beginning when she was a beauty therapist 15 years ago, and worked in a spa, and she transitioned into many different roles, and she'll probably share that with us today. She's certainly a passionate, dedicated person for our industry. And what I've always loved about Tamara is her questions. If you join her closed group, her community, Beauté Industry community, you will always find amazing questions. And for me, that shows the character. It shows how intimately involved she is with the industry. She always asks questions that make you think and really get you involved. I really appreciate all the great questions you put to us, Tamara. It's fantastic. Often I had a mentor who said, questions are the answers. So today you're going to talk about your journey and perhaps open our eyes about the industry itself, and it doesn't need to just end once you're a beauty therapist. It can evolve. Over to you, Tamara, and thank you for joining us. It's a great honor and pleasure to have you with us.
Oh, likewise, the pleasure is all mine, Frank. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. And thank you so much to the Vital Plus team for having me today. As you said, and I just would love to mirror, I really appreciate everybody who's watching this time and energy today, because it is a busy period out there in our industry. So if you have a slice of time and you're sitting down and watching this, I really appreciate it. And you'll know if you've seen anything of mine that there's a cat jumping in and out of these calls today.
That's right.
But yeah, what I would love you to do is, if you're watching live, pop all of your comments, thoughts, feelings, queries, or otherwise over into the chat box for me, and use this as your intimate session to ask all of the details. Otherwise, if you're not watching live and you're watching the replay, definitely feel free to come on over into our community. Otherwise, Instagram and social media is a fantastic place to be able to ask all of those questions. So Frank, are we okay if I take it away?
Yeah, please do. That'd be great.
Brilliant. Okay. So I'm going to be presenting a session today called The Only Way is Up. And when I was a therapist, I did feel like the only way was to stay still. In fact, not to move upwards. Sorry, I'm going to move her on the floor so that we can move forward. But I did find that being a therapist at college, there wasn't a whole lot of encouragement of moving forward and of growth and of ambition. Your goal was to be a therapist, be an exceptional therapist at that. And that is fantastic. But what happens when you sit in that therapist seat and you want to do something else? Maybe you get itchy feet and you want to progress, or maybe you think about owning your own business or being a manager. And then from there, how do you take the next step forward? And this is the biggest question that I get asked from therapists and managers and owners is, what's next and how do I get there? So I thought I'd share some of those things with you today. And especially I know that because we have been in lockdown most of the 2 years that have just gone past, we've been quite stagnant in the moves that we've made. So moving into 2022 and beyond, you probably feel like you might want to make some moves in the immediate future. So hopefully this presentation will do exactly that for you. So for those of you who I don't know or who haven't met me before, my name is Tamara Reid, as Frank said. I'm the founding director of Beauty Industry, which is an online support community for the professional beauty and aesthetic industry. And we basically host chats all day, every day about all of the questions that you are thinking as a therapist and all of the questions that you are thinking as a business owner, and also too on the product side of things as a business development manager, an educator, a general manager, or whatever your position may be. For myself, I started as a therapist. So prior to that, I was actually a dancer of 10 years. And I was sitting in my year 12 studies, and I didn't get the enter score that I wanted to because I was more emotionally intelligent than I was intelligent, book smart, you can say. I had more of a street smart about me. So school wasn't really for me, but what I did was I missed, unfortunately, the cutoff date to enter into that dance school. So I was sitting there thinking, what else can I do? And I'm watching all of my friends open their scores and get really high scores. And I thought, oh my goodness, no. So I joined, I saw in this course book an incredible course, which was a diploma of resort management. And within that pathway, you could choose spa, water recreation, or dive. And so I can't drive a boat to save my life. I couldn't hold my breath to save my life. So I thought I would love to work on a resort and have that international abroad life. So spa therapy it is. And I do love caring for others. Now, when I went into the spa therapy side of the resort management program, I was providing treatments, and my teacher at the time said, you're not in love with performing these treatments, are you? And I said, I like performing the treatments. I'm good at it. But I really do want to be a manager or perhaps even a business owner. And she said, well, why don't you quit the course and just go and do the management side? And I said, well, how am I going to be a manager if I don't know what the treatments involve, right? And for me, and this is a big theme of today's presentation, is that you have to be the job before you ask for the job. So how people come in from our industry that aren't from our industry and want to own businesses sometimes baffles my mind, because you really need to understand the crux of our industry because it is so unique. So I did go and become a therapist, and my very first job was working in a hotel spa, which I did love, but unfortunately it was 10, 11, 12-hour massages back to back. It was very taxing on the body, as you can imagine. And I was really only using one skill that I had learnt out of, say, 10 or 15 in my beauty therapy and spa therapy diploma. So I shipped off over to London, where I studied for 8 weeks, and I became an international therapist. And I was performing EMS sporadic on people who were on holiday. So you can imagine we're not really into doing the fitness regimes and eating healthy like I was trying to promote. They have free buffet, and they just want some relaxation time. And there was little old blonde me, 21 years old, trying to detoxify their body with a program called inothermy. So it didn't quite work out as I had planned, but I did get to see the world and have an incredible time at that. Beyond that, I moved into management, and boy, oh boy, isn't that a lesson in what not to do, so then you can be a fantastic leader rather than a manager, which is very important. Before moving into multi-site management, so managing a multitude of different locations under the one banner. And then I got a little bit of itchy feet again, and I thought, what else can I do? And for me, being a therapist, I really only saw that there were two options in the beauty industry. It was either to manage a space or to own your own space. And after managing and multi-site managing, I certainly knew that I much enjoyed playing with other people's money, than I did my own. So I knew straight from the get-go that I was never going to open my own beauty clinic or salon or spa, and that I really loved leading, but I definitely was more of a management type. So I was doing quite a few mystery shops, and I was traveling around having lots of different treatments. And there was one thing that I found in common about all of these different treatments, and that was the inconsistency from location, from therapist to therapist, and then the inconsistency from location to location, or space to space, brand to brand. And so I thought I would love to create a role for myself where I could focus in on quality assurance. So if it was in, Tamara's beauty salon, all of the therapists greeted the client the same way. All of the therapists took the client through that journey the same way, obviously customizing bespoke products and ingredients and treatments, but so that consistency was on point every time, and we wouldn't rely on the demand of rebooking with the same therapist, which sometimes that really limits our client to when they can get in the space. So I said to my manager at the time, are there any education roles going? And if so, what would that look like? And she said, there's not, but we will train you because you would be fantastic in that position. So shortly after some training, I moved on into education, and then furthermore into business development, and then into being a business owner, as I am now within beauty industry. And I've recently made another leap, which we'll talk about today, as global head of brand for a business management software platform called Timely, which some of you may be aware of. So I guess why I'm telling you this career history is not to toot my own horn by any means, but to allow you, if you are in the same space that I was as a therapist, to expand your thinking and expand your horizons, because you can make the job that you want possible, right? And I know a lot of the time we say we are limited by who we are and what we know, but if you have a dream and if you have a purpose and you have a mission on how you can get from A to B, which I'm going to help you structure today, then you will absolutely get there. So let's push on. How to mold your dream career. First thing I ask people when they say, I want this role, I want that role, oh, Tamara, can you connect me with this person, is, well, if you could craft a dream day in your working life, what would that be? And I'll give you a little moment to think about that, because a lot of people might say, I want to be a business owner, and I want you to put that hat on. What does that look like from a day to day? How early do you have to start? How great are you at marketing, at branding, at being a leader for your team, at doing the books? Because when you're a business owner, you are wearing lots and lots of different hats, right? If your dream day is an educator, I'd like you to put that hat on and sit in that for a moment, because educators do a lot of traveling. They're at the airports, they're going around to day spas, clinics, they're on their feet a lot. That's early mornings and late nights. So I think sometimes when we want to be a job, we don't actually think about what that job practically looks like when we get there. So I want to ask this question to you again. If you could craft a dream day in your working life, what does that look like? So that's your question. I'd love you to write it down. Now I want to ask you, what do you have to do to make that happen? So for me, if you were to ask me when I was a manager, Tamara, if you could craft a dream day in your working life, what would that look like? I would say, well, it's traveling across lots of different spaces. It's educating therapists. It's helping managers manage their team. It's making sure that clients have consistency in their treatments. It's giving therapists the skills to be able to communicate with their clients. So that's what I want. Now, what did I have to do to make that happen? Well, I didn't have any formal qualifications to train or be an educator, so I had to go and do my certificate in education and training. Yeah, I had to really start within my own team, trying to educate them. As a manager, trying to get my team consistent, trying to get my clients' experience consistent, trying to get the communication between therapists to client consistent, right? So when you start in your small pool of influence, then you can actually understand, okay, this is what it feels like on this level. When I get this role, that's what it's going to feel like on a macro level. And I really like to sit ourselves and immerse ourselves in what that next step looks like, so that when we get there, we don't go, oh, this doesn't feel what I imagined it to be. It's actually more. It's more fantastic than what you ever imagined it to be. So that's just a little exercise for you to do. Now, you might say to me, Tamara, what if I don't know what my dream working day looks like? And I actually get this a lot. I ask the question, people go, I just don't know. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what I want to be doing. I'm kind of stuck in this middle part between therapist and manager. Do I want to be a business owner? Maybe I should go into education. Look, I'm pretty good at selling. Maybe I should be a business development manager. And you might be in a bit of what I call the fog, that limbo area. And I think the last 2 years with the pandemic and everything that's been so up in the air, the fog is so much more thick right now because we haven't had the last 2 years to be able to explore as we normally would have. So what if you don't know what your dream working day looks like? That's not a problem. We can definitely help you figure that out there. So this is called ikigai, and it's actually a Japanese way that helps you figure out your mission and your purpose. And so it's a combination of 4 things. And I'd love you to, if you have some time now, or even if you're watching the replay, pause this and write down these 4 things. Pardon me. Number 1, what you love doing. So this is something that makes your heart absolutely sing. You may love providing facials. You may absolutely love that. You might like just talking to your clients, providing the therapy aspect of beauty therapy. You might love selling. You might love talking to your clients, whatever that might be. You might like leading. Then I want you to put in another circle what the world needs. So what does the world need? And it's quite an expansive question, because what the world needed 2 years ago compared to what the world needs now is very different. And for me, immediately compassion comes up there. So what does the world need? Does it need a service? Does it need an emotion? Does it need work? What does the world need? Number 3, what can you be paid for? So can you be paid for something? What is that? Is that your service? Is that a skill? What can you be paid for? And what are you good at? And that is important, because sometimes what you love doing, you are not good at. So I love dancing, but 20 years on after being a dancer, I am not a good dancer and I'm not going to get paid for it. And the world does not need me dancing, right? So that is not my ikigai. So when you cross over those 4 different metrics, you land on what you love, and what the world needs is your mission. That's why you exist. Yeah, that's how you're going to get there. When you find out what the world needs and what you can be paid for, that's your vocation. When you find out what you can be paid for and what you're good at, that's your profession. So if you're great at doing massages and you can be paid for it, ding, 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 you should be a massage therapist. How special is that? Or what you are good at and what you love, that's your passion. That's fantastic. If you are good at what you love doing, how brilliant is that? So this is a little exercise that will align you and that will help you find and figure out your purpose. And then so when we ask you the question of, well, what does your dreaming day look like? Your dream working day rather look like, this will help you find that answer. And it doesn't matter if you come to that, if you don't come to that right away, because this is always an evolutional journey. Now, I want to stop on this little sentence here because it is quite important. Working hard for something we don't care about is called stress. Working hard for something we love is called passion. So I want you to sit with that. What don't you care about that is causing you stress right now? And what do you love that you need to dedicate more time to and be more passionate about? And again, this comes back to those 4 questions. What do you love to do? What does the world need? How can you be paid to do what you love? And what are you great at? And if you don't care about it and it's causing you stress, take it off your plate, if possible. Yeah. Do more of what you love, and then you'll find your passion. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Now, I am a big, big advocate of surrounding yourself with people who are better, more intelligent, smarter, more successful, global thinkers, more progressive, more happy, whatever that word is that you want to be. Find people who are more than you, right? And with that, you should be the dumbest person in the room and not feel dumb about that. Because if you're the dumbest person in the room, then you are in the right room, right? Now, networking, as I said before, is the most important thing that you can do in your life. Networking is working, yeah? It's often not what you know, but who you know, but it's actually how you put yourself out there. And I'll give you a little story of mine. So I was on a boat, a gorgeous boat on the Sydney Harbour, I would say 3 years ago now. And there were about 150 therapists on this incredible boat on Sydney Harbour, sailing out in the beautiful sunshine. And there were about 15 industry experts on this boat. And they are the likes of general managers and beautiful business owners and educators and all of the likes, right? And not one therapist out of 150 came and said hello. Imagine that. Not one therapist out of 150 came and said hello. What a missed opportunity that is. Yeah. So there were 15 industry experts. No one said hello. No one asked any questions. Now, if you put me in a room with 15 industry experts, you could not shut me up. Yeah. This is the mentality that we need to have, because networking is the first tool in your belt that you should pull out. Now, how you network efficiently is you ask questions. A lot of people get the word vomit when they start to get in conversations with people and they start talking all about themselves. The best thing you can do is ask questions of people. How's life been recently? Talk to me about work. What are you up to at the moment? Any exciting prospects in the future? What's exciting you about moving into 2022? And really be curious. Don't just ask questions for the sake of asking questions and go, okay, Tamara, I'm ticking the box of networking. But when you actually show true curiosity, this kind of stunts people and they go, oh, they're pretty interested in what I have to say here. And you'll create a memorable experience for them. Now, when you're the dumbest person in the room, you need to ask questions, because there will be things on whiteboards and in presentations that you won't have the answers to. And I've been there myself. I've sat in big board meetings and I've gone, this is going to be a really silly question, but hey, I'm going to ask it anyway. You know how you explained that? It's not quite landing for me. Can we just go over that? And the people are always more willing to say, absolutely, let's go over that, right? And you know what happens then when I say, can we please revisit that question? I just didn't quite understand. A lot of other people at the table start to say, do you know what? I actually didn't understand that question either. Thank you so much for pulling that out. So when you extend your curiosity and you ask those questions, you actually no longer become the dumbest person in the room, but you create a memorable experience for those around you going, okay, they're not afraid to put themselves out there. Yeah. When you're networking and you're trying to elevate your career, you should ask for introductions. So if somebody knows somebody who knows somebody and you want to be connected to them, ask them. So if, for example, at Beauty Industry, we were trying to expand our reach, and I'm just saying this off the top of my head, in France, I might reach out to Frank and say, Frank, I would absolutely love an introduction to anyone within France. Who do you know that I can get in front of? And I will take you out to dinner, give some champagne to you, and repay you back later. Right? I'm getting the thumbs up. So don't be afraid to ask for those introductions. Yeah. Nobody's going to say, oh, look, that relationship is actually just mine. I don't feel like introducing you today. They will be more than happy to share that introduction. And when you get to that conversation, I'd love for you to tell people what you want. Yeah. Now, the amount of people that come into my direct messages and emails and say, oh my goodness, Tamara, I would absolutely love a coffee with you. Can we go out for a glass of champagne? Da, 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 da. And I go, yeah, sure, let's do it. Right? Now, I know if somebody's asked me for a coffee, they have some questions that they want. It's not just a coffee, it's something that they're after. But often I'll come away from that coffee or that champagne thinking, what did they want? They didn't ask me for anything. I didn't get any clarity on why we were there having the coffee. And I'm just a bit confused now, right? Versus if they had said, Tamara, I am just finishing at university. I would love to get into communications and media and expanding the industry. I love community. I'm really great at X, Y, and Z. I'd love an introduction to A, B, and C. I would go, done. How can I help you? How can I make that possible? Right? And that for me, coffee is worth the time because now I'm helping someone else versus a wishy-washy conversation where I'm going, what did we actually get out of that meeting? Because time is money, right? So tell people what you want when you get there. And like I was saying earlier in that educational story, when I said to my manager, I would love some kind of role where I could quality assurance the treatments, the conversations, and the protocols around our company, they said, well, that's an education manager, and I think you'd be great at that, so let's make that happen. But imagine if I never said, I want that role and this is what it looks like, then I might never even be where I am today. Right? So don't be afraid to put yourself out there. But I will preface this with saying, do the job before you ask for the job. Yeah, there have been many, many times where I've been in business development shoes and I've been traveling around in sales and talking about rebookings and figures. And therapists say, oh, Tamara, I would love to be a BDM. How can I have your job? And I would say, perfect, fantastic. Tell me about your retail figures. How is your rebooking stats looking at the moment? How are you going with looking at your average tickets? How many clients do you service? What is, your client's average basket size? And they would stand there and go, I don't know, right? So that is not being the job before you ask for the job. That's just saying, hey, look, that's a shiny job. I'd love to be there, but you haven't actually put in any of the groundwork behind creating the steps to get to that position. So it is really important that if you see a job that you want, you should try and put in some of that groundwork and have a real understanding of what that looks like before you accept or even ask for the job. Remember to pop any questions in the comments or the chat if you'd like to. So when people know how they can help you, they will help you. As I was saying, draw them a black and white arrow of what success looks like. And if you need to follow up, follow up. Yeah. So we have many, many people who are students in our industry, and they will come into our email at Beauty and say, hi, it's a generic email, and they'll say, hi, I'd love to be an intern or a trainee. I can do XYZ lashes. I can do XYZ with a laser. I'm fantastic at this, doing facials. And I share it with my team and I say, this person hasn't actually understood our business at all because we don't provide treatments, right? But they're coming in and they're asking for a trainee or an internship. And I'm going, nope, missed the mark. Versus Marianne, who was our intern, she's just finished up with us. She came and said, Tamara, I love beauty industry. I have listened to every single podcast episode you guys have created. I'm really active in the Facebook community. I am studying journalism while I'm also studying to be a general therapist. So I love writing, and I've got X, Y, and Z hours free. And I've also got this kind of energy and capacity for you at Beauty. That to me was a black and white arrow of what success looks like if we worked with Marianne. And guess what? I said, absolutely, let's do it. Let's hire an intern. Had never hired an intern before, but I said, let's go ahead and make it happen. Yeah. So when people know how they can help you, they will help you. But if it's a gray ask, it's going to be a gray answer, or it'll be a no. So make sure you draw that out. I want you to ask yourself, what kind of stories do I tell and how do I ask? Yeah. So when you tell your story, and you might be thinking of a role that you want now, or maybe even in the immediate future. And I want you to think about and sit yourself in a position where you can imagine how it would feel standing in front of the person who you need to talk to make that job happen. Right. So if you are after a trainee role, and my cat's back, a trainee role at the beautiful day spa near you, if you were put in front of that business owner today, what kind of stories would you be telling? And how would you be asking that you're wanting that trainee role, or how to move something forward? Likewise, again, if you're a business owner and you're thinking, I want to excel my business, and you were sitting in front of somebody who had 10x their business and was about to open another location, what kind of stories would you tell and how would you ask? So some tips for you are tell stories of your experience. So when you say, in my experience, this is what I found to be true, or in my experience, this is what's played out in the past, you actually talk from a space of wealth and knowledge. And people go, wow, okay, they've experienced X before. Maybe they will be good at experiencing Y. And then they park you in the back of their head. And when that Y position comes up, guess who's first at the top of their mind? You are, right? When you're asking these questions, I'd love you to detail wins and celebration moments. So again, in my experience, when we did X, we had celebrated by doing Y. So for example, maybe your Christmas party, you took all of your team to a winery. When we hit our target of insert amount, we actually stretched it and insert the cream of the crop amount, 280 to 300, whatever. Then we took them to a winery. It was a fantastic day. The team had a lovely experience and it brought us together in a culture sense and a value sense. It was fantastic. That detailed win shows me leadership. It shows me figures. It shows me self-awareness. It shows me accountability. It shows me KPI, right? So again, detail wins and celebrations. You're not tooting your own horn or saying, we do this and we do that. But when you speak from experience, it just lands with people and they start to think, okay, this is what they're giving out to me now. This is how I can use that experience coming on forward when there are other opportunities available. I mentioned this before, but paint a picture of what success looks like. And success is different for everybody. But when you are in a role or when you're in front of somebody, what does success look like? And make sure that that success falls in both parties. So I was interviewing someone the other day and I said, what does success look like in the role for you? And they said, I would grow, I would learn so much. I would, be able to take those next steps in my career. It would be a great learning experience for me. And I said, okay, so what does success look like for my company? And they went, oh, right. So when you're painting a picture of what success looks like, yes, it should be successful for you, but it should also be successful for the person who you're selling the dream to, because at the end of the day, they're looking for what they can bring on board into their company. So what does success look like if you're a therapist to a business? Does it mean rebooking bookings? Does it mean increased retail? Does it mean increased customer experience, increased Google reviews? If you're a business owner sitting in front of another business owner, maybe you're applying for a partnership, what does that mean from you coming on forward into their business? Does it mean expansion, franchisee relation, corporate relationships? Yeah. So detail out both of the sides of success. And then talk about empowerment of team and others. So it's not just me, I, what can I bring to the conversation, but how have you helped others to get there as well? How have you helped people step forward in their career? And I want you to take these sentences and embed them into your networking bank. So when you are talking to people and you're asking for that connection or that introduction, you can use some things like, Frank, would it be okay if you introduced me to X, Y, and Z incredible person? Or do you mind if I get you to introduce us in an email? That would be fantastic. Only if you have the time to connect us, that would be great. Or Frank, look, I'd really appreciate your connection here because we're actually struggling in the French market, whatever that may be. Right. But when I hope you can see that text, because I just moved the chat box and I realize it might be covering, hopefully not. But when you have these sentences, you don't actually feel awkward in asking people for that connection and that introduction. So I want to arm you with those today. Now, taking the leap. This is probably the biggest thing in our industry, that people feel very safe in their space. And let me tell you, after 2 years of a pandemic, I totally understand that right now we just want a little bit of solidarity and stability, and that is perfect too. But actually, not always do you have to take the leap forward. Sometimes you may have to sidestep to be able to progress forward, right? So when we are thinking about taking the leap, I want you to have this in the back of your mind that if you never try, you'll never know. So for me, when I was the therapist, I was saying before that I worked on cruise ships and I was studying in London and traveled around the Caribbean doing detoxifying treatments on a cruise ship with people who are on holiday with a free buffet. Now, if I had never tried, I would never know that actually that wasn't the role for me. But guess what? I got to see the world. I got to study in the UK and in London. I could put international therapist on my resume. And when I came back to Australia, that was a status symbol for people going, okay, she must be a hard worker if she's worked on cruise ships, right? So if you never try these things, you'll never know. But in that same breath, I want you to make sure that the risks that you do try, they align to your values. So if you need to take that leap and try something else, so for example, if you are a spa therapist and perhaps you want to take a leap to be a dermal therapist, does that leap align to your values? So over in spa, you're very accommodating. And I'm not saying this is not a dermal therapist, but more so true to the nature. You would be more calming, perhaps a little bit more spiritual, for example. Perhaps you're a bit quieter in nature and not specifically results focused. But when you're in the dermal space, sometimes it can be quite quick. It can be quite clinical. It can be very focused and outcomes driven. So do those align with your values? And if yes, make the leap. Jump over into dermal. You might get there and go, this is everything I've ever wanted and dreamed of, and that box is ticked for you. Or you might say, actually, no, I'd love to stay in a more slower, more considerate, conserved pathway of the industry, and spa really is for me. So don't just leap for the sake of leaping and go, okay, I've been in this job or this industry for the last few years. Now I'm just going to take a leap for the sake of it. Don't do that. Make sure it aligns with your values. And I want you to calculate those risks, right? So as I was saying before, sit yourself in that position. So just for consistency's sake, let's use our spa to dermal jump. What does that look like for the industry moving forward? Now, on risk-based analysis, dermal's going through the roof. So that is quite a good risk for you to take. leaping and learning a little bit more. Understanding the risks of, well, actually, I'm about to move positions or titles or whatever that looks like mid-pandemic, where I know that businesses aren't extremely stable. We could go into lockdown any moment. Where do I want to sit on that scale if you've got a really solid job where you are now? And I want you to sit in what that move looks like. So right now I'm doing X, Y, Z in my day-to-day job. If I jump and I take the leap, I'll be doing A, B, and C. Do I want to be doing A, B, and C all day, every day? Or am I quite happy with X, Y, and Z? And this can relate to business owners as well. If you sell your business, if you're thinking about selling your business, if you're thinking about expanding, if you're thinking about changing the direction, maybe you are a beauty clinic and you want to add on more facials, or maybe you're a beauty clinic and you want to add on more spa elements for that experience. Align it to your values, calculate the risks, and then sit in what that move actually looks like. And that will certainly help you. But hey, if you never try it, then you'll never know. And I want to touch base on sidestepping, because in our industry, lots of people think that moving forward is the only way to go. And if you're not moving forward, then you're moving backwards. But in fact, nobody talks about sidestepping. And sometimes it is okay to sidestep. And I'll give you a little example. So I was in a day spa. I was the manager of a day spa. I was on a wage. I had my phone paid for. I had a company car. It was a small team of 5. And I got approached by another day spa to manage their day spa. And that had 13 staff, no car, no phone. And it was, I think, about $7,000 less per year. So you can imagine that. Triple the team, no phone, no car, $7,000 less. And I went, you've got to be joking. Absolutely not, right? But in that step, I knew over here where I'm sitting, I've only got a team of 5. Yeah. So that limits my experience. Over here, I've got a team of 13. Now, this is management and leadership. Over here, I can be coached a little bit further than what I can over here. And over here, I'm going to have a lot more opportunity to work with other businesses. Yeah. Here is multi-site, here is small business. So while I went, my immediate reaction, absolutely not. Why would I do anything less, more work for less money and less perks? That side step actually allowed me to go 2 steps forward rather than it did sidestepping and then staying there. So 1 step to the right sometimes can actually help you move 2 steps forward. And you've got to remember that the pathway to success is not linear. You're never going to have a direct straight line from point A to point Z. You're going to have to go to B and over to G and back to V to get to Z, right? So it is very important that when you are sidestepping, that you be very purposeful with your steps. And I say that because when you think about that step that I took to the side, that step was very purposeful because I knew if I stepped to the side, I could step 2 forward. But if I stepped backwards and stepped 2 forward, well, then I would only be actually 1 step in front. Does that make sense? If you're a dancer, you're following me. No. So I want you to be really purposeful with your steps, making sure that even though in that step to the side, for me, I took a pay cut of $7,000 and all of the perks, that I was still kicking goals. I sat in that side step and I went, what do I have to do to make this move still fruitful for me and still thoughtful about the future? And I said, right, well, I've got triple as big a team. Let's learn about leadership as much as I can here, right? I've got 2 different spaces. Let's learn about multi-site management. I've got twice as much or triple as much stock. Let's learn about stock management and efficiency and carrying stock from one month over to the other. So it's still all about kicking those goals, even though I had moved to the side. And I want you to put a timeline on it. So sometimes we move to the side and then we get a bit annoyed at ourselves for moving to the side and say, well, why did I leave that job? That was fantastic. And now I really want to move fast, quickly, so I can take these more purposeful forward steps. But you can put a timeline on yourself. You can say, okay, I will step to the side, but it will be for 6 months. It'll be for 12 months. It'll be for 2 years. I'm going to put this little constraint on it. But when I say that, I want you to be accountable for yourself, because time moves by very quick, as we all know, especially in these kind of November, December months. And then we get there and we go, oh my goodness, I've been here for 6 years and I haven't actually taken that next step forward. Yeah. So if you're moving to the side, what are your goals and how can you put a timeline on it? If you get to the side and you are promised all of these things and you get to that timeline and nothing's quite moved forward, come back to the previous message. Who can we actually get now to connect us with those people? Because they will see that sidestep and they will appreciate that you've made that. And I'd love to know if you have ever sidestepped in your business as well. Of course, it all comes down to trusting your gut. So I want you to be really, really honest with yourself. Sometimes when we move through our careers, we can get a little reactive rather than proactive. So as I said before, you may have been in a job for the last 2 years, you want to move, you see this presentation and you go, oh, Tamara's telling me I need to quit my job and go start another job tomorrow. No, I'm not. That is being very reactive rather than proactive, right? So what I would rather you do is sit in how you're feeling, make some moves, make some notes, really understand yourself, your career, your passion, your purpose. Where do you want to go? And then start being proactive. What do you need to do to be the job before you get the job? Who do you need to speak to? What kind of questions do you need to ask? Yeah. And all of this will start to increase your self-awareness. So making sure you open those conversations and you're actually talking about others. You're increasing your curiosity and asking those questions. You're talking about your experience, your value. You're drawing that clear black and white line of what success looks like. But what I do want you to do, and this is very, very important, if you take a side step or if you take a step forward and you feel in your gut that it's not right, I want you to be self-aware enough and smart enough to say, this actually isn't working anymore. Yeah. If it's not working, don't keep trying to make it work. You absolutely need to be, what's the word? Proactive. We need to be putting in a lot of time and energy into making things work. But if you have tried absolutely everything and you have exhausted all of your pathways, you need to be honest with yourself and smart enough with yourself and others and say, actually, this isn't serving me. It's not working for my clients. It's not working for my team. It's not working for my business, whatever that might be. And in that moment, you will find so much clarity. Go back and redefine your purpose. What will serve you then? Where do you want to be spending your time? What do you love? What does the world need? Yeah, that is being self-aware. And I'm sure we've all heard that successful people, and again, success is whatever you define it as, that they have some practices. And this is what I do every single morning and every single night. I'm not saying that I'm successful, but it certainly helps me to be more successful. I'm successful at having an annoying cat. That's what I am successful at. I want you to ask yourself every single morning, what does success look like today? And my coach once asked me this question when I had a lot of things on my plate. And she said, Tamara, how do you eat an elephant? And I'm sorry for all the vegans in the room. And I said, oh my goodness, an elephant, that's so huge. It wouldn't even fit onto a plate. And she said, exactly. So you eat one bite at a time. So sometimes when you look at your calendar, you can feel quite overwhelmed at all of the meetings and all the appointments and all the bookings and all the clients and all the product. But when you look at what success looks like today, it might just be hitting a retail goal. It might just be providing an exceptional keynote presentation or training session for your clinics or your team. It might be looking like a great leader. It might be having a really difficult conversation with somebody. Yeah. So what does success look like today? And then when you go to bed, what are 3 things that you're grateful for that happened today? So when I started introducing this practice into my life, I was going, oh, okay, I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for my family and my friends. But I want you to actually drill down on more of a minor level. What am I grateful for that happened today? So you might be grateful for that really difficult conversation because it actually flipped around 360 and your team loved it and it brought you all closer together. Or you might be really grateful for putting yourself out there and asking the tricky questions because it got you connected to that person over in France, and now you can do X, Y, and Z. Yeah. So when you drill down on a really granular level about gratitude, you feel so much more fulfilled in your life and you're able to define your purpose. And that is what you should do. It takes no more than 7 seconds of a morning and of an afternoon or an evening. And I know you're probably scrolling on social media for longer than that. So give me 7 seconds. And I'd just like to finish off before we go into a little question and answer, if there are any, with you cannot be what you cannot see. And this is very important because, for example, if you are buying a house, you can go to all of the auctions, scroll on realestate.com forever and a day if you don't know what house you're looking for, right? But when you think, okay, I need 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 600 square meters, whatever that looks like, when you're scrolling, you're more defined in your mission. When you go to that auction, you understand what house you need to buy. So you cannot be what you cannot see. If you go, I want to be a business owner one day, drill down. What does that look like? Where is the business? What kind of services are you performing? What products, hopefully Vital Plus, do you have in your business? What team? How large is your team? Are you a technology-based business? Do you have online booking functionality, right? So I really want you to drill down and get clear and reduce some of that fog, coming back to what we were talking about earlier in the presentation, and draw out that picture, because you cannot be what you cannot see. If you're planning on having a family, what does that look like? If you're planning on moving interstate, what does that look like? Really get clear on your vision will help you allocate those next steps. And you might go, okay, I need to get to here. That's going to require a side step. Now, what does that side step look like? So all of that clarity really will help you in the long run in your career. And that's about it from me.
Wow, thank you. Thank you very much, Tamara. It was there's a lot of gems in what you said. I love the sentence, be the job before you ask for the job.
Mm-hmm.
I think that puts a lot of clarity about, what you've just said now, how you finished. You've got to have a lot of clarity about what you want and what it entails. I remember wanting to be at the head of Vital Plus from the very beginning that I joined Vital Plus. It was my parents' business. But my mother, very correctly, she said, okay, well, let's start by doing all the packing. You're going to be in the store, warehouse, and you're going to do all the things that's happening in the warehouse. And then I went on and moved into the sales. So I went in on the road and drove around, and then I went into the customer service and answered the phone, and office manager, and all the time I was learning something different. I was sidestepping or moving forward till I finally became manager of Vital Plus, and that was also a discovery in itself. Sometimes you kind of learn about the new job as you're doing it, because you can envisage it. I had all these ideas, this creative. I knew I was creative. I knew I was a leader. I knew that I loved helping others, and that I was going to fit in. But there was so much more that I hadn't even imagined. So the more you imagine, the better it is in your journey. Thank you so much for inspiring us to look for more, to look at becoming more ourselves and expressing who we truly are. I think that was a very valuable lesson you shared with us. I loved that you mentioned and enforced that networking is the most important thing you can do, you said, in your life. And that is so true, you know, to be curious, to go forward and ask people, because ultimately everybody that I know loves helping others. So if someone was to come up to me and say, Frank, I'm going to France, do you have any connections there? I would be so joyful to share these connections, because I just love helping others, and so does everybody. You know, to give that, to have that opportunity is great for the person you ask to be able to help, but also for yourself, because you get something from it. And when you do have that cup of coffee, like you said, you know, be clear about what you want to ask. Don't be afraid. People will really appreciate that. Now, Sophia has a question that she says, are you planning anything new and exciting with Bote Industry for community for you in 2022?
We are, yes, we are planning lots more exciting things. Something that was really clear over in the last 2 years was that the conversation has changed a lot in our industry. It used to be about uniforms and products and machinery and modalities. And these last 2 years, it's really been about HR and IR, you know, human relations and industrial relations, and having a strong voice to government and being able to empower the businesses that are doing the right thing through accreditation and certification. So we will be, moving into more of that space, which is a really exciting space, because as we know, the government is clearly detached from what is happening over in our industry by calling everybody under the same umbrella, though we wear many different hats, beauticians and beauty parlors, which we probably haven't been called for the last 30 years. So we are really going to start to play big and get pretty loud in that field, which is exciting. And of course, coming with that means more podcasting, more lives, more events, and getting quite loud on the ground.
I can't wait to see what you're going to do in 2022. We'll be following you, of course. But look, if you do have a question, don't hesitate. If you couldn't watch this live, you can put your questions on our closed group, the Vital Plus closed group, and we'll put all the details there. Also on Tamara's Bote Industry community, and reach Tamara directly. Thank you very much. It's been a really enjoyable moment to listen. You've really stirred the pot, I'm sure, in a lot of people's mind, and you really inspired us to think beyond just, you know, what we're doing now. There's lots of things that we can do to continuously grow and expand our knowledge and to be in sync with what we truly love and care for. So thanks again.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much for having me. I always appreciate the invitation.
Thank you. You take care and have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas.